Hey, this is Fox from InfernoFox Gaming, and we're going to jump into things real quick here because this is the concluding video for the recapturing my SNES collection, because we've got everything. We're going to be showing you the last few games that we've picked up, and if you've been following my series, this has been pretty exciting. But make sure that you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell for notifications. We're jumping right in with Super Castlevania 4, and this one picked up from our local disc replay. All of the cases for these, of course, are from customgamecases.com, and I picked this up for $45, and that is what price charting shows it for. This is a really excellent Castlevania game in the overall series, very approachable too. Some will say that this is the easiest one of the Castlevanias, and I'm going to tend to agree, not counting any of the Metroidvanias. This is currently available to play on not only just like the SNES Classic Edition, those of course are really hard to come by, probably even harder than the physical games here, but it is available on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection on all major consoles as well as PC Steam. Absolutely recommend it because it's got some really great platforming action and really takes advantage of those Mode 7 graphics from the early Super Nintendo days, and the music is just absolutely phenomenal. Can't recommend it enough. But moving on to the largest crux of games that I picked up at Midwest Gaming Classic, and I just released a video featuring my general thoughts and opinions of this great convention that takes place annually in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So make sure that you check it out. The link for that is going to be in the description below. But let's get right to the pickups. That's what you're here for, and that's what I'm here for too. And we're starting off with a banger featuring my shirt mascot here, Mega Man, specifically Mega Man X. And this one I paid $28, and at price charting it is $29.99, and absolutely fantastic title. This was the great upgrade from the NES to the SNES that Mega Man deserved. Not only is the music absolutely iconic, probably one of the best in the entire series, save of course Mega Man 2 for the NES, but the platforming absolutely fantastic, the bosses, the levels, you name it, everything is. And this is currently playable on the Mega Man X Legacy Collection on all major consoles and PC Steam, so make sure that you check it out. It's just such a wonderful game, and this is just really one of the best parts of getting my Super Nintendo collection back, is being able to get bangers such as these. And speaking of bangers, I'm going to be talking about a non-banger, and that is Ys 3 Wanderer from Ys. And this is not a good game. But you're going to ask yourself, why? Why, Fox? Why would you pick this up? Because not only do it for the nostalgia, because I played this with my older brother when we would rent this from our local video vault, so I have some good memories of this, especially watching him beat this particularly difficult game, as well as the fact that, the music is absolutely phenomenal. If there's any redeeming quality to this 2D side-scrolling action JRPG, it is the music. The hitboxes, though, and the floatiness of Adol Kristen is not great. Translation is just meh. Where the money is on this is the remake with Ys Oath and Felghana, which it just got re-released on all major consoles. I really think so, though, Switch, PS4, and I think, it's been out for a while on PC Steam, but absolutely recommend that. I do not recommend this, though. If you have means to get the soundtrack to this, phenomenal. It's just great to be able to have physical copies of this, because, again, I didn't own this. We rented this all the time. It really makes me think of, it really helps me wax nostalgic for when we played this as kids. The next entry is a banger. I think it is. It has a special place on my heart, and this is the last of this genre that I have in my 35 games of my collection, Darius Twin. And this guy was one that I often went back to, and of course, yes, it's a shmup, so it's hard, but this one really handles its gameplay with kid gloves because it has multiple difficulties. Easy is, of course, the most approachable, and allows you to have like lives selection. So you play on easy with 7 lives. Maybe it's a little boring that way, but I always thought it was fun. Music's fantastic. Gameplay itself is pretty decent. I've heard a lot of people say that this is the middest version of the Darius series, but I think it's probably one of the more approachable ones. And again, Super Nintendo isn't really well known for running shmups well. I still have a soft spot for it because of all the ones that I played like this and Super R-Type and Gradius 3. And of course, my favorite, which is UN Squadron. This is a great physical to have. This was like a Saturday afternoon sort of gameplay for me when I was a kid. So as we got older as kids, my older brother in particular sort of started to lean away from video games. One game that would help to bring him back was Mortal Kombat 2. And this one in particular, of course, with the realistic type graphics and the gore and everything like that, helped to solidify his teenage angst-like loyalty. And while I personally enjoyed Street Fighter 2 maybe a little bit more, I was able to play with him on this, and he would absolutely body me with the character Katana, doing like 40 to 60% damage with a crazy amount of combos that he could do. We had a local comic store called Club Bub that had an arcade version of this where he and a bunch of friends would play together to get it to 100 wins, so that not only could he fight Noob Saibot, which I think was 50 wins at the time, but be able to get, I think there's some sort of unlockable when you get 100 wins. And I remember they coded it with the 3 initial BUB on it to sort of signify that. It was really a great memory that he had, and he was just really happy to be able to be part of that and share that with him before, of course, unfortunately, him passing. He and I waxed nostalgic for it when I picked up the arcade one-up version of Mortal Kombat 2. It was great to swap memories, and I have some really great memories, and this is a great fighter in of itself. Like, this and Street Fighter 2 Turbo, probably the 2 best fighting games on this system. Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments section below if you feel that there was a better fighter for the Super Nintendo. Would love to have a conversation with you guys, but I have a lot of great memories with this particular game. Another game that released around the beginning of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo was Contra 3, The Alien Wars, and I mention the early part of the Super Nintendo life cycle because the fact that I could get my older brother to play this with me. We had a lot of fun with this, and then of course I remember playing this with my buddy Tony over at his place. Just the 2-player action gameplay of this really makes it worth it, and you have a lot of fun with that. And this is actually one of the best Contra games. In my opinion, I enjoy this as well as the original Contra on the NES. You have a couple others that are still really solid, like Super C and Contra 4 for the DS. But this is absolutely fantastic Contra gameplay. I've heard Contra Hardcore for the Genesis beats that out. Now, my Genesis friends, don't crucify me on this. I haven't played through Hardcore yet because I want to give it the attention and love that it deserves by giving it like unmitigated focus. So that said, probably a review for that will be coming. But Contra 3, The Alien Wars, such a fantastic game, and so some of the graphics that were done with it were really stellar for the time, and the music for this is absolutely phenomenal, but it's sort of what you would expect with an early Contra game. The next 2 I'm going to mention in regards to the paying or the payment style, because Star Fox, I paid $0, and price charting has it for $16.36. And the next one after that, Pilot Wings, I paid $5, and price charting has that at $13.61. Now, how did I get Star Fox and Pilot Wings for the prices that I mentioned? How did I do that? Because I brought in a physical copy cartridge of Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest from my local disc replay. At the same time, I bought the Super Castlevania 4 game, but I really wasn't satisfied with the physical copy of that. It's just what didn't really look that great. I wasn't really happy. So at this particular vendor, I brought it in and I said, hey, what are your thoughts about trading your Pilot Wings that you have listed for $10 and your Star Fox for $15 for my Donkey Kong Country 2? And he goes, would you be willing to pay $5 as well as trade both of these? And I'm like, hey, sold. Because Donkey Kong Country 2 is valued at price charting at about $23. So I'd only paid $20 for that. So kind of made $3 there. And essentially I got these for free because I've already paid for Donkey Kong Country 2. Really happy with that. Good trade all around for me. And Star Fox itself, I didn't actually own, but we used to rent a couple times. Also, we had a family vacation in New Mexico where they had it, and I remember playing it there. Pilot Wings, though, we owned and played a ton, especially with my cousin, who anytime he would come over, he absolutely insisted on playing this or Sim City. And this was a really great sort of like simulation type game, and it was more of a set piece for the Super Nintendo to show what it was capable of doing. And really that's what Star Fox was with the Super FX chip. So both of these games were a ton of fun to play, and funny enough, great deal for a pair of games where you do a lot of flying around. Now the next one sort of goes with the motif of early Super Nintendo games like Pilot Wings was, and that is F-Zero. I paid $20 for this. Price charting was at $14.99. A little bit of an ouch there, but the copy of F-Zero is super minty. Really glad with that. And I'll mention that all of these games, all of them, including the ones that I'm going to show you, I have tested. They work great, no issues. I was really happy with that. And this is just an absolute classic. One of the two beginning launch games for the Super Nintendo. You can't go wrong with Captain Falcon, who of course only appears on the box, as well as the manual. But the Mode 7 racing is iconic at this point. There's really nothing much else to say besides the music is god tier. Great memories of playing this with my two older brothers, where when your car would crash, it was almost like the bass was so heavy it could almost blow out speakers. So of course my older brothers had to plug in our external speaker set, increase the bass and the volume as loud as they could. 3 pairs of eardrums and a speaker set blown out later. It was still a good time, and just so many great memories with this game. We're going to get into the bangers. Were the previous ones bangers? Because even though I think so, maybe you're going to think that these last 5 are absolute bangers. Hopefully you do as well. And we're starting off with Donkey Kong Country. I absolutely love this series because this was the game series that helped to revitalize the Super Nintendo in a time where they were losing in all locations except Japan to the Sega Genesis, and the upcoming PlayStation 1 was also looking to supplant the Super Nintendo for market share. Spoiler alert, it still did, but this helped to keep the Super Nintendo alive in the fight with absolutely iconic gameplay, great looking graphics, and god tier soundtrack thanks to the great David Weiss. Love this series, love this game. If I thought that Donkey Kong Country had god tier soundtrack, Donkey Kong Country 2 surpasses it. David Weiss was definitely firing on all cylinders with this fantastic title. This cartridge is absolutely more minty than the one that I replaced. So really happy to have that. I paid $23 for this, whereas price charting shows this at $24.13. Fantastic title, absolutely great gameplay. This is like top 5 for Super Nintendo games when it comes to like all the games ever made. This is probably number 1 or maybe number 2 out of the entire Donkey Kong Country series for the just everything with it, and maybe top 3 for platformers of all time for at least for me. So if you've enjoyed Donkey Kong Country 2 or think that this is one of the best platformers, or if you think I'm wrong, again, let me know in the comments section below. And if we're talking about games that could surpass it, we are not talking about Donkey Kong Country 3. This isn't inherently a bad game. I think it's probably the weakest of the three, but it's still a great game. It really epitomizes the country aspect of the Donkey Kong Country series. This is a great game, don't get me wrong, but the music isn't as good because it wasn't wholly composed by David Weiss at all. It was composed by another individual who still did a great job, and I do think the soundtrack to this is still superior to the Game Boy Advance version, which was composed by David Weiss. This one is more ambient in nature and kind of fits the environments a bit better than David Weiss's on the Game Boy Advance. But again, still a great game. I'm not really sold on Kiddy Kong as a sidekick character. Thankfully, I think this is like one of the last times that you see him, and I'm fine with that, and maybe you are too. So we're down to two games, and these two definitely are bangers. We are talking about ActRaiser for the Super Nintendo, and for this guy, I paid $38, and price charting shows it at $35.58, which a little surprising that the price on this has gone up. I think maybe this is the JRPG effect, because this is like a hybrid between like actually an action platformer and a simulation game made by Enix, not really part and parcel to the Quintet trilogy, but Soul Blazer, the game released like just after ActRaiser, it uses a lot of the sound samples from ActRaiser itself. Absolutely fantastic game. I was so disappointed with ActRaiser Renaissance in that it did improve the action platforming portion of it, but they got rid of the simulation part and turned it into an tower defense. I swear, Japan overall is so obsessed with tower defense games, and I've seen it even in like the Ys series with the Ys 8 raids and the raid system like that, and I'm over it. It's become such a trope at this point. Well, at least we have ActRaiser, and I'm hoping at some point Enix does some kind of Quintet trilogy, including Soul Blazer, Terranigma, Illusion of Gaia, and throws in ActRaiser and ActRaiser 2 to be nice. Picking this up in Midwest Gaming Classic, I saw a bunch of ActRaiser 2 copies before I finally came upon a really good minty copy of ActRaiser. Music on this is absolutely fantastic as well, so can't recommend this enough if you can find a copy of this. But the last pickup is by far the greatest, and I'm going to say greatest as in my wallet is still crying from this particular pickup, but I had to do it. This was my white whale. I had to conquer this. I am super, super excited to be able to have this because I've never physically owned this. I did rent this once from our local video vault to be able to have this experience, and this is one that gets slept on hard on a number of releases or on a number of discussions for this particular series. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to present you Mega Man 7. Yes, I am crazy. I did it. I physically picked up this game. Here it is. I have it. You see it. You love it. I love it as well. It is very, very minty because all of the ones, and I've sort of followed this on eBay to see what they look like. A number of them have label damage, and this one, from what I can see, has barely anything at all. And the back looks fantastic as well. And I'm really, really, really impressed with that. You'll see on the back here, looks super, super clean. I am extraordinarily happy with the overall physical version of this. It is super duper rare, and super rare to find one that's in good condition. Again, I'm a crazy person. I paid $275. I talked them down from what they had listed for $300, and price charting shows this at $290.12. This is not going anywhere. I did test this to make sure it works, and again, as I mentioned, all of these worked phenomenally, and just being able to plug this in and say, hey, it works fine. There was like no issues or anything. It was just a sight to see. Sort of brought me back to my young teenage self playing this when I rented it. The platforming on this, Mega Man walks and moves a little bit slower than how Mega Man X does, especially even with the slide ability that he has. And his sprite just feels kind of big compared to the rest of the screen. The Mega Man sprite sort of seems smaller on the OG NES versions. Regardless to all of that, it is a great game. It has a lot of character, a lot of heart, without being that sort of corniness that like Mega Man 8 was, especially with the voices and all of that. Really helped to capture like that sort of epic feeling that you had with Mega Man, especially with some of the scenes with Mega Man running into base, or Mega Man meeting up with Proto Man, or even the end where Mega Man is getting ready to actually off his nemesis. Just everything with this was fantastic. Well done. Love the music. And you can play this, not only the Mega Man Anniversary Collection back on like the PS2 and GameCube and I think Xbox, but currently on all major consoles on the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. So if you have a chance, pick that up, give it a shot, give it a play. It deserves a time. Don't be a crazy person and pay what I did. Again, I am crazy, but as you can see on this reel, I have all 35 games that I want in my collection. I have done it. Everything is here, and I managed to complete it in a very short time. And you got to think, I started this in the beginning of the year. As time goes on, it's always possible that these prices will increase. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't care about that because I have my collection. It is not going anywhere. I have these just so that I can play them, or just to be able to have them and just say, hey, this is it. I am not looking to compete with anybody else or to complete or pick up any other of these Super Nintendo games. I am good. If I had a Desert Island collection, this would be it. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on my collection. At some point, I'm probably going to do another video ranking all of these just on like gameplay or whatnot. But again, I definitely would like your thoughts on this. Thank you for journeying with me as I recaptured all of these classics, and have a great day.